Welcome to the Susie B Magazine Summer Interview Series. We're doing our first interview today with a woman who is a maverick in her field of writing. We have #1 best-selling author, Anna Quindlen, with us. Anna Quindlen isn't just an author, she's also a journalist, op-ed columnist, wife, mother, to me in particular, and an all-around wonderful role model to young women. She won the Pulitzer Prize in 1992 for commentary for her column, Public and Private, and in 2000 she became the only author ever to be simultaneously on the New York Times best-selling fiction, nonfiction, and self-help lists. Welcome, Anna Quindlen. Thanks so much for being with me, Mom.
Good to see you, Maria.
Good to see you too.
In our living room.
In our living room. Let's just start. We're just going to start.
Okay.
You worked at the New York Times for over 15 years. With the recent appointment of Jill Abramson as the Times executive editor, do you think we're ushering in a new era of visibility for women in the newsroom? Or is it still a male-dominated field? And if so, do you think that will ever change?
Oh, things are definitely better than they were when I started out. I think a good barometer is when I came to the paper in 1978 at age 25. I thought it was because I was the best girl reporter in the world. And it turned out that it was because 6 women had brought suit against the New York Times, charging that they didn't hire, pay, or promote women in parity with men. Fast forward to 2011, and the first woman becomes executive editor of the Times. So things are definitely better in the newspaper business than they were when I started. Are they finished? Do we have enough women as reporters, as editors, as opinion makers? Absolutely not. Definitely better.
Great. Good to know. You're also a novelist, and people often want to know how your creative process happens. How do you go from a blank page to a first publish?
I spend about 8 to 10 months just walking around thinking. It looks like I'm power walking or making dinner or something, but characters are beginning to take shape in my mind. And that takes a while, almost a year. In fact, the novel that I expect to start in about 2 weeks has been rocketing around my head for most of the last year. And at a certain point, the characters become clear enough, the situations become clear enough to me that I start to write, and hopefully the magic happens.
And it's usually the characters first.
Yes, absolutely, and it's usually the central character first. For example, in my last novel, Every Last One, it was Mary Beth Latham, who's the protagonist of the book, that became clear to me first, and then her kids, and the other characters followed.
Wow. Every Last One, it's a great novel, you should check it out. Who is your ultimate celebrity crush? Be honest.
Oh, it's such a lame, obvious answer. George Clooney.
I knew it.
I mean, good-looking, smart, ironic, perfect.
You love him.
I do.
I love him too. A topic you've explored a lot in your writing is motherhood. Your mother, my grandmother, died of ovarian cancer when you were 19. What did you learn from the experience and the loss, and what pearls of wisdom did she pass on to you, and how have you tried to instill those pearls in your kids?
What I learned from my mother's death was that life could be really short and that you had to use every minute of it and live it to the fullest. And what I learned from her life is that sometimes, actually often, it's more important to be kind than to be honest or be smart. And I hope that I've used that every day. My mother was a really good mother. She was really good at unconditional love. And once I had kids myself, I felt like every day I would not go wrong if I got up in the morning and tried to be as much like Prudence Quindlen as possible.
I'm not going to break the interviewer-interviewee spheres, but I would like to hug my mother right now. You've been an avid supporter of Planned Parenthood for a long time. What are your thoughts on the Republican state legislature's war against women's reproductive rights in America since the midterm elections? What are the biggest dangers you feel for women if these defunding bills continue to pass?
Well, I'm on the national board of Planned Parenthood, which I'm very proud of, and I think it's important to remember that when Margaret Sanger founded Planned Parenthood many years ago, her motto was every child a wanted child. That's the most important thing about Planned Parenthood. And the danger here is that women don't get health care, that women don't get pap tests, that women don't get the prescriptions they need for contraceptions, contraceptives, and also that women wind up having children that they don't want or can't afford. There are millions and millions of women in the United States who had their first gynecological exam at Planned Parenthood. And I think if all those women remembered the good the organization did for them, none of these efforts would pass because they'd be such a vast majority that they'd vote them all down.
I was shocked when I was at that Planned Parenthood rally how little percentage of Planned Parenthood's funds go towards abortions.
Except that it's important when we say that we not seem to be backing off from
Absolutely.
the provision of terminations. The truth of the matter is that ending a pregnancy is legal in the United States. And when I look at that decision and I look at our state legislators and say, should they decide or should women decide? That's a really easy call for me to make.
What does feminism today, right now, in 2011, mean to you? How would you like to see the word redefined in the future, or do you think the word needs to be redefined at all?
No, feminism is very simple. Feminism means judging people based on their talents, not based on their gender. You mentioned Jill Abramson at the beginning of the interview. Jill Abramson is the next executive editor of the New York Times. Not because she's female, or despite the fact that she's female, but because she's really, really good at her job. That's what feminism has always meant. That's what feminism always will mean. And I think that we got to take back the word, because I think the right wing has tried to demonize the word, and it just means giving women their due. If they earn it by virtue of their smarts and hard work. What we need to redefine is what equal rights means in the 21st century, because despite the fact that most of us are working in the world, we're still doing the vast majority of the tasks at home. We're still doing most of the housework, and we're still doing most of the child care. So the redefinition that needs to take place is not in the roles of women, it's in the roles of men. And then taking on more of the scut work and also more of the child care, not only because that's fair, but because they're missing out on so much if they're not involved in the day-to-day lives of their children.
That's something we're trying to do at Susie B, make it a more inclusive topic, feminism, with men and women both involved. Where were you when you were 22, professionally, personally, and as a woman in general on your female journey? And what advice would you like to give to young women of today that you wish someone had told you back then?
When I was 22, I was a reporter at the New York Post. I was living alone in a tiny little cheap apartment in a neighborhood nobody lived in called Soho, which shows just how long ago it was. I was temporarily split up with my college boyfriend, who would later go on to be my husband and your father. We all make mistakes. And if I could go back and talk to my 22-year-old self, what I would tell her is that she should stop listening to all the voices out there that would say, you're not smart enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not thin enough, you're not good enough. Because she was pretty darn great. And that's what I see around me. I see all these great young women who are bombarded with these negative messages that they should just shut down right now. You know, if you're getting up every day and trying to be a good friend and a good citizen and a good worker and a good person, then to heck with all the messages that say you're not enough.
Well, here's one message for you, America. I love my mom. Thank you so much for being
with
us.
And I love Susie B.
And she loves Susie B.
I do. I read it every day.
This is our first summer interview series. Signing off. See you next time.